Hello everyone! Today I will be sharing few tips about working on etude by Dotzauer Opus 120 number 7. Double stops, always tricky. So we'll be working in a very slow tempo, playing one interval at a time. First two intervals, major third and octave, are fairly easy to tune because one of the notes is open string. Take advantage of that and don't move on until you believe that you made perfect intonation. Remember, if you're slightly off, that will make very dissonant interval. So you must correct it before moving on. For instance, making F a bit lower will clearly had to be changed to and the same with octave. If you play top D a bit lower, don't move on until it is fixed. Keep in mind, you're using two different strings, and one of the strings, D in this case, is a bit thicker. So it requires a little bit more energy to make a good sound. So I'm always thinking about leaning on the lower string, giving it a little bit more energy. And that makes the higher note to sound a little bit softer. We'll use the same idea when we work on intonation in a string quartet. For instance, when two violins, first and second, have an octave to play, then the first violin having the higher note has to play much softer. Very often, you will have to use higher wrist position in the left hand. So when you play on a D string, and then you have open A string, your fingers have to be in this position. So you'll be using very tips of your fingers, so you don't touch an open A string. For example, measure 5. You know, normally I would play G like this. And then, you know, this way I would touch the A string, which is unacceptable in this situation. Another example is measure 17. I use the third finger like this, so we can hear open A string very clearly. Another tricky moment is measures 25 on, where you have to bar two strings at a time with the same finger. So when you do so, we have the interval called the fifth. The same interval is between open strings. And this interval is very tricky to play in tune. So we usually assume that we just put a finger like this and that will be good enough. But every cello requires very little adjustments. And if you don't make those adjustments in the angle of the finger, then it will never sound in tune. Also keep in mind that our fingers are not very straight, so it takes a while to be able to learn how to play those fifths in tune. Keep in mind that having to press on two strings at the same time requires extra energy, and very often you will end up playing with sore fingers. Also, the part of the finger you will be using for a fifth when you have to press on two strings is a little bit different. So that will not be, tip of your finger, but more of the inner part. So those measures 25 and 26. Pay attention, in measure 26, I had to move the pinky from D string to G string, and I just rolled it like this. Here it is. One more time. This is not the way we usually move from string to string, but here you have to keep D string pressed, so the only way to switch to two strings from just one string is to roll the pinky like this. The middle part of this etude in D major is all about playing with round fingers, so you don't touch another string when you don't need it. You need some time to get used to that. Changing the position of your fingers from normal position somewhat flat to very round will require some patience. So as a preparatory exercise, you might just play one note per bow, so play by quarter note. This way you will split each half note into two notes. As I mentioned before, the best way is not to use vibrato. However, once you feel that you have enough confidence, then you might want to use a little bit of vibrato to make a better sound, to add some phrasing to this etude. Because it's written quite well and it has good harmonious melody, and overall I hope you'll have very enjoyable experience working on this etude.